Hello friends, good morning. I am Arpit and I am here with today's analysis. Today is 20th of August and we are going to cover the most important topics which are recurrently in news. The first topic which we will be covering today is about BRICS. BRICS stands for Brazil, Russia, India, China and South Africa. The first, letter of these countries, they form this acronym BRICS. Why we are going to cover this? Because, just round the corner is the BRICS annual summit. The BRICS annual summit is scheduled to be somewhere around August 22nd to August 24th. And this is going to happen in South Africa this time. So a lot of things in the newspapers will be there, and by getting these basics from today's lecture, you can easily connect to whatever will be happening or whatever the developments will be happening. Then the next piece of news is Swachh Sarvekshan, which we are going to cover. This Swachh Sarvekshan is basically an annual survey undertaken by Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs in the urban areas, and various cities are ranked according to their cleanliness. We might be hearing about this, that Indore is the cleanest city of India. Yes, Indore is the cleanest city of India since the past 6 years. And who tells us this? It is the Swachh Sarvekshan which tells us this. So we'll be looking into details what all is there in Swachh Sarvekshan, what is open defecation free, ODF, what is ODF plus, what is ODF plus plus. These are the terms which are recurrently in news. And you should know the basics, right? Because UPSC asks questions from the basics. And finally, we cover the third topic, that is National Family Health Survey. Now, the fifth round of National Family Health Survey was released last year. And the findings of this National Family Health Survey is used in multiple other indexes. Like this year, we released the National Multidimensional Poverty Index. Niti Aayog released it. So, data from National Family Health Survey was used. Then there are various, I would say, reports which are delivered by the Ministry of Health. They use this data. So again, this is very frequently in news, National Family Health Survey. So we should understand, the basics of National Family Health Survey and what was the findings of the fifth National Family Health Survey, and we will compare the findings of the fifth National Family Health Survey with the fourth National Family Health Survey. Okay, so this is going to be the agenda of today. So let's start. Now the BRICS, we know the full form of BRICS event. It is BRICS Annual Summit, which is going to be held from 22nd to 24th of August, where it is going to be held in Johannesburg this time in South Africa. Since South Africa is part of it, so it is there. Now, structure of BRICS. What is BRICS? Is it an organization? No, it is not an organization. We should understand this. BRICS does not exist in the form of an organization, but it is an annual summit between the supreme leaders of 5 nations. Supreme leaders means, like in India, we have the Prime Minister, in China, the President, in Russia, the President, like this, the head of the state or the head of the government. So they all meet annually, and this time they're meeting in Johannesburg. So it is kind of an annual summit. It is not an organization. The chairmanship of the forum is rotated annually among the members in accordance with the acronym. Let's suppose this year it is South Africa, next year it will be Brazil, then Russia, then India, then China. Likewise, it goes this way. The BRICS together, they form around 41% of the world's population, 24% of the global GDP, and around 16% of the global trade happens among them. These are some statistics with respect to the BRICS. Not so important, but yes, you should know these facts. One more fact about BRICS which you should be knowing is that all the countries in BRICS are developing countries. These are the fastest developing countries of the world. Not developed, but developing. Not underdeveloped, but developing. Can we call them the future developed countries? Yes. In future, these developing countries will become developed countries. So, it is just like a grouping of, I would say, developing countries which are very rapidly developing. People often compare this BRICS with G7, that is group of 7. Those are that is the grouping of the world's most industrialized countries or the most developed countries. But a sense of comparison is only developing and those are developed. This is the difference, I would say. BRICS is a grouping of developing countries, all are developing. G7 is a group of developed countries, all are developed. So this is about BRICS, that it is a grouping of the world's fastest developing countries, but we need to know we need to understand the basics of BRICS. How did BRIC get formed? Now, there was a person named Jim O'Neill. He was I would say, head of a consulting firm called as Goldman Sachs. So in 2001, Goldman Sachs published a paper. And in that paper, it highlighted the growth prospect for the 4 fastest developing economies of that time. That was Brazil, Russia, India and China, which together came to be known as BRIC. South Africa was not mentioned in that paper. It was only these 4 countries. And said that the future belongs to these countries. Definitely yes, because these were growing, potential market, expanding market. There was less chances of saturation coming in. So this paper highlighted the importance of these growing economies. The leaders of these economies realized one thing, that definitely if we come together, we can make an impact. In 2006, the 4 countries initiated a regular informal diplomatic coordination. The foreign ministers, they met of these 4 countries on the sidelines of the United Nations General Assembly, UNGA. When these ministers met, the meeting obviously was fruitful and it led to the interactions or the meetings between the head of the state and head of the government. So first 2006, foreign ministers met, then finally it led to the I would say meeting of head of the state or head of the government. The first BRIC summit took place in Russia. The name of the city was Yekaterinburg. And this happened in the year 2009. The focus was on issues such as reform of the global financial architecture. Now, the global financial architecture was dominated by United Nations. Inside United Nations, there was the World Bank and IMF. These are 2 specialized agencies of United Nations. United Nations is believed to be dominated by the Western countries, the developed countries. And the developing countries and the developed countries were often faced with discrimination. We wanted loan, we wanted money from them. They always posed various challenges for us. And hence, we were not able to get the money on our desirable terms and conditions, but on their desirable terms and conditions. There means the developed world who were dominating the United Nations. And these were the global financial architecture at that time. And these developing countries already had come together, formed BRICS, and in the time to come, they also formed certain financial institutions which were competitors of World Bank and IMF. World Bank actually gives loans for infrastructure project development, and IMF gives loans for meeting the liquidity crisis. If your forex reserves are dwindling, if you do not have that much foreign exchange, you can take money or loan from IMF. If you want to build a road, railway line, metro projects, sustainable development projects, World Bank will give you loan for that. But these organizations or these financial institutions were, I would say, not neutral. They had to be impartial, but they were not impartial. They were tilted towards the West, or they were dominated by the West, I would say. So we wanted to reform such things, the global financial architecture. Could we do reforms over here? No. We formed another, financial institutions. BRICS later on formed NDB, the New Development Bank, which was a competitor of World Bank, and Contingency Reserve Arrangement. The details of both these organizations we'll see, but since we are talking about global financial architecture over here, so let's just in brief discuss about this. These were formed under BRICS later on, because the very formation of BRICS, the first summit of BRICS, was talking about reforms in the global financial architecture. South Africa was also invited to attend or to join BRIC in 2010 and attended the third BRIC summit in Sanya, China in 2011, and hence BRIC became BRICS. Now, what are the areas of cooperation among the BRICS countries? Economic cooperation, quite obvious. People to people exchange, cultural exchange, this happens. And political and security cooperation among the members, this happens. So these are the three areas, broad areas of cooperation among the BRICS countries. But now we move on to the details of New Development Bank. The New Development Bank, the first ever meeting of BRICS, we were discussing about reforming the global financial institutions. So we had that in mind ki bhai, we need to do reforms, or we need to form or create our own financial institution, so that we developing countries and other developing countries and underdeveloped countries, they do not remain at the whims and fancies of the World Bank and IMF. We will give them loans. And hence in 2014, that is the fourth BRICS summit, we formed the New Development Bank. New Development Bank, which was headquartered in Shanghai, China. And we pooled around $100 billion at that time to form this bank. Was the, I would say, starting capital of NDB. And this $100 billion was given equally by the members. 20 billion dollars contributed by each to form this $100 billion. Actually, during the fourth summit, we started talking about it, and during the sixth summit, that is 2014, this NDB was formally formed in Fortaleza. So that was there. NDB's key areas of operation: clean energy, transport infra, irrigation, sustainable urban development, and economic cooperation among the member countries. Now all these are done by or are funded by World Bank also. So NDB was doing it. We can look towards NDB as an alternate of World Bank. Now NDB functions on a consultative mechanism among the BRICS members, with all the member countries possessing equal rights. Since the contribution was equal, so all the BRICS countries had equal rights. But since 2021, the membership of NDB started to increase. Yes, you heard it right. Now, not only the BRICS countries were part of NDB, there were new additions. Like in 2021, UAE, Bangladesh, both these countries were added. Egypt was added in 2023. Now what is the scenario? All the BRICS countries, they have equal rights, and these countries have lesser rights than these BRICS countries in NDB. Uruguay is a prospective member in NDB. Means in the time to come, Uruguay can be a member as well. So presently 5, 6, 7, 8 members are there in NDB. Now when I talk about this equal sharing and all, so 18.98% is the share of Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa. It is the same for all of them. Initially when NDB was formed, it was 20% each. But since there are new additions, so their share has been diluted. BRICS shares have been diluted, but the share value of all these 5 countries is equal, that is 18.98%. When I talk about Bangladesh, Bangladesh's share value is 1.79%. Egypt's share value is 2.27%. UAE's share value is 1.06%. So this is the present share value in NDB of all the countries. When Uruguay will be added, it will be further, I would say, altered. Now projects undertaken by NDB in India. Very crucial projects: Mumbai Metro Rail, Delhi Ghaziabad Meerut Regional Rapid Transit System. This is under full swing. The construction is in full swing. If we go in Delhi's Nizamuddin area, we'll get to see it, and maybe by 2024 this will be operational. And many renewable energy projects in India have been funded by NDB. In 2020, India announced a $1 billion loan pact with NDB to boost rural employment and infrastructure, and this happened post-COVID actually, when the first wave of COVID struck us. Now, when I talk about contingency reserve arrangement, now on one hand we have NDB, which is funding for infrastructure projects. On the other hand, we have contingency reserve arrangement, which is giving funds for managing the liquidity crisis. Now, this was also formed on the sidelines of NDB in 2014. Okay. It provides short-term liquidity support to the members through currency swaps to help mitigating the balance of payment crisis situation and further strengthen financial stability. Like last year, Sri Lanka's situation was there, where the forex reserves were dwindling of Sri Lanka. So Sri Lanka could have relied upon BRICS countries, and maybe this has provided support to Sri Lanka. The initial total committed resources of CRA shall also be $100 billion. NDB was also $100 billion. CRA is also $100 billion. But in case of CRA, there is a catch. What catch is there? Let us see. It is not equal in case of CRA. The contribution by China is $41 billion. Contribution by South Africa is $5 billion only. And by Brazil, Russia and India is $18 billion each. So 18, 54, 59 and 41 makes it 100. So China has contributed more in contingency reserve arrangement. It would also contribute to strengthening the global financial safety net and complement existing international arrangements like IMF. So this is contingency reserve arrangement. Now UPSC is very smart. It can ask you questions based on NDB, CRA, and ask them to compare it with the World Bank and IMF. They may ask you also questions like, are they competing with each other or are they complementing each other? Now it is not like India has stopped taking loans from World Bank. It is only relying on NDB. No, we are taking loans from World Bank also, we are taking loans from NDB also. So you have to know it, whether it is complementing in nature or whether it is competing in nature. And from there, definitely a question can be arised or can be asked in the mains examination. Now next is Swachh Sarvekshan. Now Swachh Sarvekshan, basically this year there will be the 9th edition of Swachh Sarvekshan. Last year's theme was waste to wealth. Now what is waste to wealth? We need to understand that. The waste is generated, and let's suppose you are segregating the waste in your homes. Wet waste separate, dry waste separate. Now the kude wale bhaiya comes, collects the waste. The wet waste is processed, decomposed, converted into a fertilizer, reused. Waste to wealth. Or the dry waste, it is burnt, and by burning that dry waste, electricity is generated. Waste to wealth. It is not, linear. It is circulating. It is getting utilized, and this is also called as circular economy. When you are doing any economic activity by wastage or by the waste. If you are able to do this, you are doing two things. First, you are saving on the resources because you are reutilizing the resources. Second of all, you are saving the environment from getting polluted as well. Now just imagine a situation that you are not burning the dry waste, and that dry waste will be there, contributing into the heaps of trash, mountains of trash, which we'll see in many urban areas. But if that waste is getting used, then this will not happen. Linearity will not be there. There will be circularity. Means it will be reused again and again. Now this is our main focus in the Swachh Bharat Mission Urban 2.0 as well. That we have to create circular economies, or we have to promote circularity in waste management. Circularity in waste management is simply we have to reuse, recycle and reduce wastage. Okay, so this is our main focus, and we have to create garbage free cities. If we have this in mind, ki we have to achieve circularity in waste, or we have to achieve circular economies, then definitely these mountains of trash will not be formed. Now about the Swachh Sarvekshan, or about this survey, it was introduced in 2016 by MOHUA. It is the world's largest annual survey of cleanliness, hygiene and sanitation in villages, cities and towns. Now evaluation for Swachh Sarvekshan 23 is based on three components. The first is service level progress. Now what is the service which is being provided to maintain the cities as clean? First is segregated collection of waste. Is it happening or not? And this is very, very important, segregated collection. And you, me as citizens, as responsible citizens, as educated citizens should practice this in our homes. Now why is it important? Now let's suppose a situation where you are not segregating waste. The kude wale bhaiya comes, collects the waste, goes and dumps that waste. Nobody is going to segregate it for you. This is a very, very, I would say, difficult job. And that unsegregated waste contributes to the mountains of trash which you see in urban areas. That creates a lot of problems. But if you segregate it in your homes, wet waste separate, dry waste separate, the wet waste, you can decompose that wet waste and convert it into fertilizer, reuse it. The dry waste, you can either recycle it, whichever is recyclable, or whichever is non-recyclable, you can burn it to create heat or to generate heat, and that heat can be used for generating electricity. Those are called as waste to energy plants. These waste to energy plants are coming up in many urban centers. Like this year, Kochi has seen one waste to energy plant. There's already waste to energy plant, two waste to energy plants established in Delhi. India's biggest waste to energy plant is coming up in Gurgaon. So that will all depend on our efforts, means the common people's efforts of segregating the waste. Then this segregated collection should be there. Now, processing and disposal of waste, it should be proper. Used water management and Safai Mitra Suraksha. Safai Mitras are those people who are sanitation workers. Then certification will be given. Garbage free city, star rating will be given. ODF, ODF plus, ODF plus plus. Now what is ODF? ODF stands for open defecation free, which simply means that no one is defecating in the open. Either they are using community toilets or they have their toilets in their homes. That is it. No one is defecating in the open. Now what is ODF plus? ODF plus is one step ahead. Here, nobody is defecating in the open, but 80% of the people have toilets in their homes and 20% are using community toilets. This is the difference between ODF and ODF plus. This 80-20, I would say, segregation is there, and whatever waste is being generated in the toilets, it is getting treated and then it is being ejected in the water streams or wherever it has to go. After treatment only it will be ejected. That is ODF plus. What is ODF plus plus? ODF plus plus is nobody is defecating in the open. That is why ODF, open defecation free. But here we go one step ahead. That is 95% of the people are having toilets in their respective homes. 5% are using community toilets. Solid and liquid waste management is happening as it was happening here also. But here one step ahead is that whatever wastewater is coming out, it is getting treated and that wastewater is getting reused also by the people. So recycling of water also happens. This is ODF plus plus. So circularity is achieved here in ODF plus plus. Here linearity was there. Here we were not talking about any linearity or something like this. But here, after the waste gets treated, then it has to be ejected. After the waste gets treated, here it is the treatment plant, it has to be ejected. Now waste gets treated, it has to be reused. That is, circularity is happening in ODF plus plus. So this is there. Then another component, the third component of Swachh Sarvekshan is citizens' voice through feedback, grievance redressal, engagement, etc. So people's voice should also be heard, what they want, what are the challenges they are facing, what all are, I would say, the shortcomings of such kind of programs. Because it is we the people who have to, contribute on one hand in, Swachh Bharat mission, and we will be at the receiving end also. It is we who will be living in unhygienic conditions if our localities are not clean. So it is very important to take our feedback. So that is why this has been termed as the third, I would say, component over here. Then additional weightage has been given to source segregation of waste. As I told you, as I already highlighted the importance of this. So additional weightage is given to this. Enhancement of waste processing capacity of cities and reduction of waste going to dump sites. Then where will the waste be going? It will be going in recycling. Circularity will be happening. Ranking of wards within the cities will also happen. Assessment of cities will be on dedicated indicators such as open urination spots. How many open urination spots are there in a city? Those are called as yellow spots. Or open spitting spots where people consume tobacco and they spit. Those spots are called as red spots. So while doing this Swachh Sarvekshan, the ministry will also take into account that in a city how many yellow spots are there, how many red spots are there, and if there are many yellow spots or red spots, then obviously it will definitely have a negative impact on the ranking of that particular city. Then it also talks about types of waters. Focus on source segregation of solid waste ensures grey and black water management in all cities. As I told you that solid and liquid waste management has to be done and it has to be reused. So here there are three types of waters which have been highlighted by the ministry. First is the clean water. This is the water from springs, wells, purified water, city water, which we are getting through the taps. Then we use that water, and if we are using that water in the sinks, showers, bath, laundry without harsh chemicals, and that water is going through the sinks, then that is called as grey water. And last is the black water, water from toilets or containing harsh chemicals. that is black water. So the, I would say, division of waters or types of waters is also there in Swachh Bharat. So UPSC can ask questions from here, or red spots, yellow spots, anything UPSC can ask. So this becomes important. Now the last piece of news which we are going to cover today is the National Family Health Survey 5. Ministry of Health and Family Welfare actually releases this survey. Now, is it a door-to-door survey? Means every family is covered or every household is covered in this survey? No. We should understand that this is a sample survey. The National Family Health Survey is a large-scale, multi-round survey conducted in representative sample of households throughout India. Obviously, it will not give a crystal clear picture. No, the census will obviously give a crystal clear picture because that is a door-to-door survey, not a sample survey. But yes, we have to have something in the middle, and the sample size is considerably large in this, but that is a sample after all in National Family Health Survey. Can we rely on the findings? Yes, somewhat we can rely on the findings of National Family Health Survey 5 because there is no other survey other than this survey in the middle. Like we have, the census after every 10 years. But here, something in between we have. After how much time or in what intervals is the National Family Health Survey released? No, there's no fixed interval. But yes, let's see. The first National Family Health Survey was released in or was conducted in 92-93. The fifth round of the survey was conducted in 2019-21. So 92-93, 7-8 years plus these 20 years. So in these 27-28 years, 5 surveys have been done. So roughly on an average 5-6 years, one National Family Health Survey gets released. The main objective of NFHS has been to provide reliable and comparable data relating to health and family welfare. Who conducts it? Who conducts this survey? It is conducted by International Institute for Population Sciences, Mumbai. Now the findings. This slide is very important because a lot of definitions are going to be discussed here. Total fertility rate. Total fertility rate can be understood as simply that how many children a woman is giving birth to in her reproductive age group. Reproductive age cycle is 15 to 49, I would say. When there is, I would say, this menstrual cycle keeps on happening. And after 49, largely, it is considered that menopause happens. So in that time period, how many children have been given birth to by a single woman? Now, on an average, according to National Family Health Survey 5, each woman in our country in the reproductive age group gives birth to 2 children. Earlier, it was 2.2. So it has reduced. So it is a good sign and it should be somewhere around 2. Then next is contraceptive prevalence rate, CPR. Contraceptive prevalence rate is how many people are using or having access to contraceptives. Again, in this reproductive age group. So around 67% of the people were having access to contraceptives. Earlier it was for 54% only. So again an improvement from NFHS score. Antenatal care visits. Antenatal care visits means visits by a pregnant lady during her pregnancy, because it is mandated by the doctors that you should visit in these intervals, so that if there are any complications which are happening with you, we should be able to observe them and obviously tackle them. Now earlier 59% of the pregnant women were doing this or were visiting the hospitals. Now it has increased to 70%. Means women are realizing the importance of hospital visits during pregnancy. Then unmet needs of family planning. Unmet needs are basically those kind of needs, whether you wanted a contraceptive, you did not get, you wanted some nutrients or nutrients like iron folic tablets or something like that, so that your reproductive organs remain healthy, you did not get them. Those were the unmet needs. Earlier, the unmet needs were relatively high. 13% of the people reported unmet needs. Now only 9% of the people reported unmet needs, which simply means an improvement. Then full immunization of children aging 12 to 23 months. Immunization program basically pertains to vaccination. And 76% of the kids in our country which are aged 12 to 23 months are vaccinated. Earlier only 62% were there. The government of India has this universal immunization program which is named as Mission Indradhanush, in which the government intends to vaccinate the children right from their birth. And vaccination is very, very important. Then sex ratio. Sex ratio is number of females per 1000 males. Now this is distorted. Actually 1020 females per 1000 males means there are more females in India than males according to this National Family Health Survey 5. And earlier it was 991 females per 1000 males in India according to the 4th NFHS. Now this is a bit distorted figure because it is not true actually. We are in a patriarchal society. No census till now has said that there are more females than males in our country. The latest census, that is 2011 census, points out 943 as the sex ratio. And since this is a sample survey, NFHS, so maybe in those samples in which NFHS have covered, there may be more number of females. And then neonatal mortality rate. Neonatal is that kid who has been born and is of less than 1 month of age, or I would be specific, 28 days. So neonatal mortality means a kid or a person getting born, when a child gets born, or there's a kid born and dies within the first 28 days. That is neonatal mortality rate. Infant mortality rate, if that kid dies within 1 year, does not see his or her first birthday, that is infant mortality rate. Under 5 or child mortality rate means when a child is dying below 5 years of age. That is called as child mortality rate. And all these three indicators have seen an improvement: 29.5 to 24.9, 40.7 to 35.2, 49.7 to 41.9. So that is obviously commendable. And finally, institutional birth. Institutional births are those kind of deliveries which are done under the supervision of experts. Aspirants tend to confuse themselves that institutional births means birth by operations, by C-sections, cesareans. No, it can be a cesarean, it can be a normal delivery also, but should be under the supervision of a medical expert. Should be under institutions, medical institutions, where all the facilities are available. So institutional births have also increased in India. Now 89% of the children born in India are in medical institutions, means under the supervision of medical experts. Earlier it was 79%. We've seen considerable amount of improvement in almost all the indicators. Should we be happy about it? Yes, definitely we should be being happy about this, but we should also consider the fact that this is a sample survey, not a full-scale door-to-door survey. So we should be knowing this fact. Okay, so this is all from today's class. In today's class, we covered those kind of topics which are, frequently will be in news, and you should know the basics of these topics. BRICS, although will be in news in the time to come, you will be covered in newspapers from 22nd to 24th of August, since there is this BRICS summit. And the other two topics are those largely recurring topics which will be in news. Okay, so we'll be meeting you with more such topics, more exciting topics, and those topics which will be highly relevant from your exam point of view. Signing off for today. This is Arpit. Let's be meeting tomorrow. Thank you.